listening to the ways to trim and weather yourself for the storm is never like really powerful for me. And I know we need to talk about it. So we're doing the audience an injustice if we don't speak of the battening down the hatches and preparing for the storm. I think that this next economic cycle, like all economic cycles, are where people can go and make their killings. Like this is the time when people who are aggressive and have cash will be able to turn their 10 millions into 100 millions, 100 millions into billions. Like this is the time to do something. So I think you have to look at two distinct areas. You have to have a good sword and a good shield. The shield is to protect your house, watch your 3.4% to 3.5%, blah, blah, blah. That stuff drives me crazy, although I know we need to do it. We're doing an injustice to the listener if we don't say, look at your supplies, look at your credit card fees, etc. But I also do believe, like, I've been waiting and having cash for a while. Like I sold that land, I had the cash because I thought the recession was going to come sooner. And I don't know if there's a massive dip, but like you always say, or Pete or Dwight, I don't remember, but people drop things when they're running. And I don't think that there's going to be
when they're scared.
When they're scared.
I say people drop things when they get scared.
So there's going to be dental practices that people are just like, they got their ass kicked during COVID. It was emotionally scarring. They have PTSD of that. It's not that long ago. Yeah. And then with the news and the sensational articles, I think there's going to be some really great practices and opportunities around.
Well, you are now in your cold open, Craig.
No, I know. I'm just saying. But Dwight, Trey, your microphone sounds normal. You actually sound like
I pulled a few levers.
I feel like everyone's going to miss that, Trey.
Yeah, they are.
The deep love. And I used to play that.
We're going to have to watch the comments to see who's angry.
But
bring him back. Bring him back.
Please comment if you would like him to reduce his mic back to bare minimum. I think it would look good.
It would. I agree.
So I'll get your ERC money, by the way.
I did. You got some checks today. It was like
today.
I did literally. I'm today trying to post today, so it is. It's crazy.
Real. I thought you got him in a while back. I don't know why I thought that. I thought you got him in when I got him in.
So by the way, I got an email today from my bank. My bank is like, you could be eligible for up to $26,000 per employee. So it's still going on. If you haven't done anything, go check out. We got that website still at BPERC, Bulletproof ERC, which is awesome.
BPERC, right?
No, Bulletproof ERC. Isn't it Bulletproof ERC? How do we not even know our own landing pages?
Yeah, because we got a gazillion of them to help people out.
I know, but it's like, that's embarrassing. Yeah, Bulletproof ERC, it's still up. Do it. Holy shit. I saw Pete's checks. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's paying. So I got my check today, and they're hammering concrete, as sawing concrete. So I'm like, that just paid for this entire new location.
Sweet.
So good.
Yeah.
And that's, what better use of funds like that, right?
Yeah. Reinvestment.
Just how many people, everybody's just leaving on the table though. Why is that people don't want to look through this process?
I tell you, Craig, what happened. So I actually had this conversation with my banker, and he's like, hey, can you give me that contact? He's like, you got money? He's like, because all of my clients are being told that they don't qualify.
Look at what happened with you. You said no to one of the masterminders, and then Dwight had his company that he was working with, and I was working with these guys, and
the amounts they get, Craig, what I was going to say was like they were getting like $30,000 approvals on big practices, and they were like, well, it's probably not worth it by the time you fund this and do that and that. And so they weren't doing it. And then I kind of explained to him the amounts that were possible when you go to a specialist, and he was like, what?
Crazy. Trey, you did it, right? Of course.
I did.
Yeah, good.
All right.
Good. So, all right. Well, just check it out if you haven't done it. Please don't. It's not just for you. It's for your team. And it's a government program that exists to help people like you who kept your employees and pay payroll taxes prior. Enough of my beating on the drum. That was not what I wanted to say, but I was excited.
What other news other than a helicopter land in your front yard today, Craig? What other news do you have? Not your front yard, your practice. You had a patient come in a helicopter, landed in your practice, and
not on my practice. So
what? No, in your practice, you had
for the patient. I guess the full story, since we're recording, is it just so happened he had engine trouble while flying over my practice and had to make an emergency landing on the neighbor's property. And then while he was here, he got his implant crown and took off.
And the mechanic
he just happened to be at the dentist.
It's just amazing. I mean, the coincidence that can happen, but I mean,
I'm disappointed in you that you do not have a landing pad at your practice.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
next. You're not inventive enough to think through
That's what his ERC's for. He's going to put it towards the helipad.
It's an employee helipad, an EHP.
That's right. It's like you said, it's for the team. It's for the team.
For the team.
All right, looks like we have an agenda, folks. There's
an
agenda going
unless we've got an intro, Dwight. I know I shut it down. Unless you want it, I don't hear no
roasty. If you could do a little roasty poo, that's kind of fun.
I don't know. I'm a little worried that sometimes the roasties are too hard for. I mean, I'll keep making them, but it seems like it's a little hard for some of y'all. I'm not gonna lie.
You mean for sensitive pants over there?
Yeah. Oh, don't talk to Trey that way. He's fine.
Yeah.
You was only a single tier. Only a single tier.
Juggle your friendships. Like most of y'all know, it's a roast. But I want to.
Hey, Dwight, when are you coming to Florida? Weren't you threatening to come to Florida to hang out with me and do some stuff here? Weren't we doing this? Is this still happening? We can hang out.
Yeah.
Staying at my house and all that.
I'm in. What's his? Bart and I were talking about it. He wanted to do it this summer.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that happens because I don't know if you noticed, but I took Pete out to ERC Ranch, Bitcoin Ranch, Bitcoin Farms. Pete was burning around on the dirt bikes and made me ride my son.
I got a good video of y'all troublemakers. No, I'm totally down, man. We're gonna have a blast. And I figured I should put a buffer of no roasting for like a month before I come over. That way.
Oh yes.
Just in case.
I'll still be hurt.
It's self-preservation.
Yeah.
All right, Pete. Let's throw this down.
Scorpions in your bed.
Yes, scorpions.
All right, so we've got an agenda. I want to talk about this article I found, and it was ironic. I don't really read dental magazines that come to my mailbox. Like, for there, I'll come to y'all's. Once in a while, I'll look at it and be like, anything interesting? Stupid. There was an article that came out. I thought it was applicable to the stuff we talk about sometimes. So I've got a dental economics mag article I want to talk about. I want to talk about, kind of the macroeconomic climate that we always talk about, and then the recessionary strategy that you guys are deploying. So last episode, we did some marketing stuff, right? We were talking about kind of the best marketing strategy. I thought that was good. I actually re-listened to that myself as a listener. I thought it was really good.
He would say he likes to smell his own
fart. My own fart.
He loves saying that. I don't even know where that came from.
Everyone loves their own brand.
What do you mean? I think it's like Napoleon Dynamite or something.
Yeah,
but I want to talk about this Cyberhack and the stuff that was posted by Dr. Paul Goodman, and he posted something that like associates were not being paid at Aspen, and it was quote unquote for the Cyberhack, but there's conflicting evidence on that. ERC updates we already talked about, and then Craig, I want us to recap at the end to kind of talk about AACD and what we kind of learned and discovered
that's right.
And and then and also some summit stuff. So big agenda, and then anything that will come in from there. So I'll jump into it with if you guys can see on your screen, essentially what this is done by the Levin Group, right? And I guess they take a bigger swath of data from all practices across the nation, rather than just like, we tend to look at entrepreneurial practices and hear from entrepreneurial practices, and I think it's a different data set. But it's interesting to hear that. So basically, I'll summarize this article. So it's profit down, overhead up, and overhead up by a lot. And so 65 dentists reported that the rising overhead was the biggest challenge they see right now. And I want to hear if you guys think that that's legit or no.
Define legit. You want to know if we agree with it?
The things that you highlighted or you underlined are underneath that little tag on the bottom. You highlighted some areas. Can I read that too?
Coming from the guy whose face is covered by the same tag.
Oh, I don't care. Yeah. This article looks good. My face does not. So that's a difference.
Yeah,
it's hard for me to scroll, but there you go.
2021 was a banner year for production in most dental practices, it says. Only 4.6% of dentists reported that their production increased in 2022 was greater than 25%. There's a significant decline.
So yeah, it basically is saying there was a 2021 was a banner year for most practices, and 2022 there's only been a small amount of people who have actually gotten better in 2022 than 21.
I think that's a hard comparison, first of all, only because of the fact that 2021 was a pent up post-pandemic demand.
Correct.
100%.
I agree.
That's my first thought. But generally speaking, I feel that the natural tendency of everybody feeling inflationary spending or inflationary goods in their personal lives and in their business, they push that on to their customers, and dental offices and owners of dental offices started to feel that. But I think if you're not proactively watching what your supplier is, charging you, or you're not evaluating this every year, I think this is where it gets caught. And I think it's just like Pete's rule. I have the same kind of rule. Like, you're always asking for a 20% off I ask for it every year. If I work with the one supply group and I've worked with them, and I require at the beginning of every year, like, I compare them with 2 other potential suppliers and we go through it, and you ask for a discount, you compete it out. If you're not doing that, they're taking advantage of you right now because they.
Dwight, I do that. I got to tell you, I got to put a pause on that, because I actually have been teaching that to some of my key people that are, they're now in kind of some deals. And I'm like, look, get someone's quote, go back and say, hey, will you do X? And let it always be 20%, which they might then be taken aback, but then they will usually split the difference and give you 10.
Good. Absolutely.
Right. So whether that's the roofer that comes to your house, or the supplier, or the plumber, whoever it is, ask for 20, and then they split the difference, and they feel good because they won, and you're really aiming for 10 to split the mean. So anyway, not to interrupt, but that's a good little life hack that seems to always work, versus most people just get the price and like, okay.
Yeah, sounds good. No. I think your default should be to always ask for that, and to build your infrastructure, your team, to always be asking for that, because I think that's the natural tendency. And I struggle if people are not evaluating this every year. Mm-hmm. If your supplier, whether it's Burkhardt, Patterson, Shine, name your supplier, I don't really care, it feels like they have an unlimited contract with you, you're not doing business properly. Like, my supplier knows you get 12 months. Like, great. And then we'll evaluate it 12 months from now. You've got to earn. This is the percentage you need to fall into. If you're not following this on the profit and loss statement, then you're doing that. So they don't feel like, they can probably feel that they can go to most practices and inch up that 3% inflation on their goods, all their costs. But you can't, they know they're not going to be able to do it at our practice, or they know that 12 months from now, they're going to lose that contract, or 6 months from now, they're going to lose that contract. I think that's an aggressive tendency, but that's what you need to do to maintain and protect your business, or else you will lose your profit over time.
And they'll must inform them, like, the business is yours, but it's yours to lose, right? Meaning, like, 1,000%. This is not in perpetuity. I think that's smart, Dwight. Like, keep everybody on alert.
It's hard work.
Along those lines too, from the standpoint of contracts, and I say contracts not just in who you're contracted with to use whatever ancillary service, be it supplies or equipment, anything like that. I actually avoid any contract that locks you in. I want the freedom of a 30-day window, and if I really like you, I'll give you a 60-day window. But the aspect is, if your product speaks for itself, then it's never an issue.
Agreed. Yeah.
Then you sharpen the pencils, like Dwight said, every year. And I think I agree. Most people don't, but it's because it's set it and forget it. And then you are victim to them doing the same thing.
I'm telling you, if you're not getting multiple quotes, if you've stayed with the same supply company, just to make it real simple, same supply company for, I don't know, because that's your supply company, this is what you do, you're getting hosed, period. I'm telling you right now. If you don't have a comparison bid every year, you are getting hosed in our industry, hands down. So my favorite is I go back and I say, by the way, this is what I can get if I go somewhere else. The last time I did this, aka this year, I've reduced my cost by $150,000 across our note.
In consumables and supplies?
In consumables and supplies. Just because I did a cross comparison with 2 other suppliers, they came to market and said, well, if you want to keep your business, you're going to have to make some adjustments, and you're going to standardize some of our supplies throughout. Meaning we had to put the onus on them to standardize us.
Dwight,
maintain our.
I'm going to pause you here because I want to hear your steps for going into this. Walk me through how and why you started auditing, and if someone's listening to this saying, I don't have the bandwidth Dwight has, nor the acumen to do this. Can you walk through like some quick like hacks off like look at these 3 things, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we do this in our personal lives. We just for some reason don't want to do them in our business, right? If you go and compare, like, I want to buy this car, right? You're going to go and get quotes, multiple quotes. If you want to go travel somewhere, you're going on to some sites. A lot of people go on a site and it's like TripAdvisor, or you're going here, or you're going to a site that's going to give you 3 different options for travel. When it's all about price in a lot of ways. And if what I do is I take all our supply costs from that previous year, and Q1, my team knows we spend most of Q1 analyzing everything we spent our money on the last year and where we can save. So you're going through and you're cutting, and all you're really doing is getting 3 bids on everything that we spent our money on last time. And your IT company, if you want to keep your business with us, you're going up against this other guy. Why are you better than them? Am I willing to pay a premium to stay with you, or am I not? You got to prove it to me. So for supplies, for example, I went in and you get everything we've spent and every bit of supplies and volume amounts, the same way we run it for insurances or patient care, things like that. You run all your total amounts and you break it down for the whole year. You send that out to 2 other suppliers you're not working with who want your business, and bring them to the table and say, hey, by the way, I do 12-month contracts. I allow you to come in, meaning I can kick you out at any point in time. There's no contract per se, but I'll allow you. I won't be reevaluating this until Q1 of 2024, kind of like what Trey is saying, right? But I'm going to go through that. And I can tell you every single time they're like, whoa, they're cheaper because they're offering this quality or that. And they'll tell the dentist all these typical things. Guess what? It used to be that composite was vastly different, this one versus another, in the past. Now there's 15 different types of high quality composite that are all within the same microfilled, macro, all that garbage. It's all there. Everything is equal these days. You can go to all these others and say, I want cotton rolls. Cotton rolls are cotton rolls. If it's going to your mouth, you should pause you for a second.
Let me pause you. Because like you said, that it's all the same. There are gray market materials, right? So
yeah, we're talking not gray market. I'm talking actual quality
above the bar.
Above the bar. Clearly, you can go to China and order all your cotton rolls.
You guys can drive like 20 minutes across the border. I mean,
yeah, you can do all kinds of things. But I'm saying cheap. Any of the suppliers I've talked about, if you put the top 5 to 8 that you know that are in your area and service your area, and you put them up against each other, right, you will notch that down 2 to 3%.
How do you export that? Like, so that sounds like a lot of work, right? When I hear you talk, it sounds like a lot of work. So is there a way to quickly say, I'm going to export my inventory document and then reshop it?
Well, first and foremost, if your supply company you're working with should do the majority of this work for you.
Okay.
I need to know all the stuff I bought from you and every single invoice consolidated to an annual report. And
the big boys will do that for you.
Doing any of this, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to give me that data, and they're going to tell you, the first thing they're going to tell you is, well, yes, but we don't want you sharing what fee structure. I'm like, take the fee structure that you give me off of there. I want to know how much I spent and how many of each thing I ordered annually. They do all the work for you. They give it to you. You take that and you hand it to 2 others. And you say, if you want to keep my business, we're about to go through this little gameplay where y'all each show up and present what you think you're going to present. And we as partners or as an owner can go in and decide whether I want to pay the premium for that or not. If I want to stick with 3M products, because the way they get reduced fees for you is they bulk everything under 3M. All right, we're going to use all these 3M products, or we're going to have here. Or if you're multi-location, they'll help you balance your structure where it's like, we use 3M across all offices, and therefore your inventory is free goods. All these other
Let me get back to Dwight. I love that. And I think that's an audit that should be happening. And you're right. I think we said it, forget it, because it's like so boring. So like if you're out there and you want to look at operational efficiencies, that's something we're to look at. I'm gonna go back to this article.
One thing too, Pete, is that there's creep. So you successfully negotiate your supplies and they give you amazing pricing. They save you tons of money. And then over the next year or 2 or 3, it creeps. Right. It's a lot like the credit card thing, Dwight.
Yeah,
you're in rare air because, Dwight, you were like the only person that I know that when we looked at your credit card fees, you negotiated them. You're a very special person that you can look at these things that drive me batshit crazy, this minutia. So I'm the type of person that needs to have a company. So like with that MCC thing that we do, that's the one thing that saves me consistent money on my credit card fees. They save me thousands of dollars. But when I used to do it, is negotiate, feel great about myself, and then 2 years later, like, oh, I wonder how it's going again, and it was all super screwed up again. So constant looking at these numbers, and you got to make sure. Like what we do in my office is we have a no-go. Our clinical supplies do not exceed 4% ever. We can't. Oh. And when they're sub 5, there's bonus categories for that. So we're just very careful of that. So there's an internal control on that, because if you're looking at an absolute numbers, it's hard because you're growing. So just pay attention to your P&L and the percentages.
But even that, like when you were at 8 million as opposed to 12 million, now it shouldn't be 4%. It should be 3.5. It should be 3, right? Like at some point in time, those are every little bit of it. I guess just to bring it back to the article, like what you're saying, Pete, like my thought is I think every dentist thinks that the way you grow a dental business is to increase production.
Yes.
And the way you actually run your business properly is you reduce your overhead as you grow your production.
Right.
Yeah. Well, on the bottom
line, unless you wait for an article like this to tell you, oh, by the way, everybody's overhead has gone up. Oh, I must be everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're speaking to a very few percentage of people out there. By the way, the only reason why I even know about this stuff is because I almost lost it all. I almost went out of business growing my top line and not paying attention to my bottom line. It was existential. Like I almost ran out of business, ran out of money. If that same thing would have happened early in my career, I wouldn't have been able to weather that.
Right.
I'm using this.
Dentists probably stop listening to this podcast by now because we're like, oh, I'm not a business person.
No one stops. Craig, the reason that I'm bringing this up is mainly for fodder, because our viewpoint would probably differ from a little bit. So I'm bringing this up as just, what do you think, so that there's either consensus or something can learn from the difference of opinion.
Sure.
So the next thing is, and we actually just talked about this on our office hours for our mastermind, is that more than 90% of respondents believe that there is a shortage of dental staff available for hire. I get cringe when I see dental staff, by the way. But anyway, 90% says there is a shortage. 90% of dentists believe there is a shortage of people for dentistry.
For sure.
So we're talking not dental. I mean, not dentists. I mean,
it says staff here.
Okay.
Trey.
So it could be hygiene associates. Who knows?
Yeah, everything non-dental. Let's non-dentist. Let's call it.
I think you write an article for the same reason a news channel runs a
right.
runs a story.
It reads. If it bleeds, it reads.
That's right. So, I mean, looking at something like this, that one graphic sitting there in the bottom left, dentists reporting production increase greater than 25%. And they're like, oh, look at this huge bar next to it. And then this tiny little deal here. 25% is a massive amount of growth, except for a startup type practice. If you're a capacitated practice growing 25%, that's doubling every 3 years.
Correct.
That is dramatic growth, and it is unsustainable in a single location because you'll hit capacity very quickly. So that's not appropriate to throw that out there and act like it is, hey, this is a huge problem. That's a very normal statistic. This is baseball talking about, in this situation with these runners on base and this inning, given this, this pitch count, this is what normally happens. I mean, we can make up whatever statistic we know with that. So I think the team aspect of things, if there is a shortage of team, people that you can hire for your team, then you go to every other industry and you hire from there, in which there are no shortages. And one of the things we looked at, we've talked about this actually, but I just had ChatGPT write my hygienist ad, and we went through a whole deal of looking at it. And what you realize is that in the prompt, one of the biggest things was, I'm not looking for people that are unemployed. I'm looking for people that work for other practices. Mm-hmm. I want people that have a job. So that's one of the big issues is you run ads targeting, or you're looking at, hey, there's a shortage of people. Well, there might be a shortage of good people that don't have jobs.
Unemployed don't apply.
Correct.
Wow.
There you go.
I love it. Okay. Trey the poacher.
I like
the butcher.
I also like what Trey just said.
The poacher.
I like the fact that you admitted that the article is written for eyeballs. And let's be frank, the person who's writing it is a consultant trying to drum up business for his consulting practice. He does not get paid or make a majority of his money from writing articles for Dental Economics or whatever magazine that was.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, the future is really looking bleak. Trust us. We take practices and make them successful, And I agree with you. The practices reporting 25%. That's a great graphic, but it's like you're coming out of a pandemic. Everybody's booming. There's pent up demand. I think I agree with you. But moreover, there's a lot of private chat that we all have, and I'm still of the persuasion that there's pain coming. And I know we had a group chat just a couple of days ago, and you guys are on a counterpoint to what I think, but. It's just the voices I'm tuned into and the people I'm listening to think there's like a big slowdown coming. There's a slowdown in logistics. My buddy's a truck dealer, and he's always the canary in the coal mine because logistics slows prior to the consumer feeling it. And they had a record Q1, and April just like ground to a stop, like massive stop. And then my friend who owns a Ford dealership here, who I've been trying to get a new F-150 from for a while, called and is like, I have 40 platinum F-150s and I'm selling them below invoice. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And then something else happened too. And I'm like, could we make meaning out of these tea leaves? Or is this just coincidence? Or, as you guys have said in the past, it's all baked in already.
Well, let's move to that. This will lead us into what I think is important, as Craig, if you are saying that there is going to be a little bit more gloom coming, a little harder times, a little stagnation in the economy. We already kind of talked about Dwight's little strategy about use this time to audit your supplies, lower that to 4%. I think you were saying, Craig, you said 4%, and Dwight is continually auditing it. I think 4% is tough, but anyway. So let's keep talking about
making sure what you're categorizing that 4%. This is not implants or your lab costs for Invisalign stuff like that.
Of course, that's a lab cost. Yep. Let's keep talking about recessionary strategy, and what I have here written down is a couple things that I'd like to maybe hear your takes. But my keys for a recessionary strategy would be to increase and focus on attracting hygiene patients. Right, because as we've always said, those become fertile ground for treatment that people may not know they want or need, and usually those are the lowest hanging fruit in terms of new patients versus an all-on X patient, so to speak, right? Which takes a continuum of leads and curation of that touch points. That makes sense from a marketing perspective.
Yep.
So that would be one. So mine would be increase and focus on hygiene patients. Have your team review benefits prior to the patient's appointment. So many times we look at what is available after we've had the conversation and see if they're interested. But a lot of times there's an Invisalign, there's an orthodontic benefit, or there's available cash for treatment that may be needed that could be paid for. And having that acumen, having that knowledge, that foresight of checking gives you a different power to your conversation, I think. And then gear your verbiage to that when you're talking about treatment. It's like, hey, we actually saw it before I came in here. I actually saw that you had $1,000 remaining on blah blah blah. Right? That's a very okay.
Like clear aligner stuff like that.
And or whatever it is, right? Remaining benefits or benefits that may exist. And so many times, I guess we just check after the fact is where I'm going.
Yeah.
But being armed with that. And AirPay, I know we've got a great thing. Craig, are you liking AirPay?
We love it so far, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. We use that as a insurance verification done automatically, so it populates, and we have I think it's BP AirPay, but it gives people, if you sign up, it gives you months off or percentage off. But my team loves it because it really reduces the amount of work and phone calls. The level of insurance verification data that is given automatically is much more developed than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I'm working with them to create those customized reports so that they can send you an email or a CSV file that you can actually say Mrs. Jones is coming in 3 weeks and she has night guard coverage or aligner coverage, which is huge because if your insurance company is subsidizing your clear aligners, that's awesome because most adults don't have that.
Let me get through this. The third thing, and we'll come back. I mean, that's cool, but let's get through the three strat. My third one is look at negotiation strategies for supplies and labs. And we already talked about this, the 20%, Dwight. So Those would be my three things: is renegotiate the labs and supplies, look at benefits prior to the appointment, and increase and focus on attracting and creating that hygiene experience for new patients and hygiene experience for hygiene patients. Okay. Anyone else want to jump in? Craig, since I cut you off, do you want to kind of jump in on that or add
let me just say one thing. Whenever, I guess it's the way my brain works. I got something wrong with my brain, but listening to the ways to trim and weather yourself for the storm is never like really powerful for me. And I know we need to talk about it. So we're doing the audience an injustice if we don't speak of the battening down the hatches and preparing for the storm. I think that this next economic cycle, like all economic cycles, are where people can go and make their killings. Like this is the time when people who are aggressive and have cash will be able to turn their 10 millions into 100 millions, 100 millions into billions. Like this is the time to do something. So I think you have to look at two distinct areas. You have to have a good sword and a good shield. The shield is to protect your house, watch your 3.4% to 3.5%, blah, blah, blah. That stuff drives me crazy, although I know we need to do it. We're doing an injustice to the listener if we don't say, look at your supplies, look at your credit card fees, etc. But I also do believe, like, I've been waiting and having cash for a while. Like I sold that land and I had the cash because I thought the recession was going to come sooner. And I don't know if there's a massive dip, but like you always say, or Pete or Dwight, I don't remember, but people drop things when they're running. And I don't think that there's going to be
when they're scared. I say people drop things when they get scared.
So there's going to be dental practices that people are just like, they got their ass kicked during COVID. It was emotionally scarring. They have PTSD of that. It's not that long ago. Yeah. And then with the news and the sensational articles, I think there's going to be some really great practices and opportunities around. I think some DSOs will go out of business. I actually think that the capital markets may dry up. And I'm actually, that's what excites me as much, if not more.
So you mean, so this is to the audience that has a tremendous amount of dry powder like you do. So we want to gear the podcast at that as opposed to talking about.
No, not a tremendous amount of dry powder. You don't need a lot. You just know that I don't think it's here yet. I'm a big believer that the pain at our cash registers of our practices has not begun. It might be beginning. And I think there's going to be a lot of great opportunities to be aggressive. That might just be merging an existing practice into yours. You don't need cash for that. You can pay them.
You're basing this, I think, Craig, based on 2008 and 2009 kind of scenarios where there was blood in the streets. And if you had bought, even if the blood was yours, you'd have been a rich guy right now.
Right.
It's an entirely different paradigm right now, in my opinion.
Right. But none of us will know. We'll know in 2 years from now.
Okay. Well, then. But
you're presuming that let's just get on the same page. I think that would be good because we talk about this all the time. We're all very different. And that's why I brought this up. That text thread that we had in our private chat was, I think Dwight was let's find out what the position of each one of us is. Are you guys thinking that this is a flattening? It's like a kind of a flat spot and then a rebound? Or do you think there will be blood in the streets, the proverbial blood in the streets? Things falling apart.
We've already had this conversation.
Right, but it was months ago.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing's changed.
Interest rates went up a little bit. I think they will start trending down. I think because we're in stagflation, which is the worst, which is an inflationary environment where people aren't spending money. Like that's the worst scenario.
Stagflation. We as business owners and a lot of the bigwigs that like to have an opinions or talking heads like to have opinions, they like it when it's going up or when it's going down. When it's stagflation, they're confused and they're scared. And
what do you mean by stagflation? Just so you can explain that. What does that mean? Rising interest rates and no economic growth?
Correct.
Exactly. And so when they don't know how to define it, it's going up or it's going down. And they're
inflation and then no economic.
Inflation. Right. That's what I meant. Inflation.
And so on that impact, what I'm struggling with is hearing these doomsday talking heads, all this. Why? Because it's the same thing like that article. Like it's trying to get people to listen to you. They're not actually out there actually working on their business, realizing and paying attention to their consumer, paying attention to their numbers. It's like the docs who responded to this survey and said that 90% of them think that there's a shortage of dental staff, right? You know what that means really to me is this is a bunch of individuals who are not actually, they haven't built an environment where they can take anybody in and make them better people. They're waiting for good and established dental staff to come in who already know how to work. Like, oh, you have to have eagle soft knowledge. You have to know how to suction, how to take it. Like that is garbage. That's just poor business. And so these are the individuals who are creating a scarcity environment, making people think that when in reality, if you run a good business, you have a good onboarding system, training protocols that allow people to be successful. But they're not saying 90% aren't available. They just think they've made this funnel so little, it makes it hard for them to recruit anybody for any one position.
Craig, I believe that real estate, you are right. You will probably be able to get some deals in real estate. I'm not sure about that in dental practices. And here's why. It's because they have yield. And they have, and you can already acquire them like, for 2 and 3 times, 4 times earnings. And like, and so I had a conversation. So I went to F1 this weekend. Craig, you knew that. And I told the guys, and it was through YPO. And half the reason I go to a lot of these YPO things is because it's a great incubator for talking. Half of it is fun and half of it is
get a pulse.
Get a pulse, right?
Yeah.
Different industries, different people, non-dentists, right? Like, and so I was talking to a guy who had a building supply company, massive building supply company in Texas, actually. And I said, so here's the deal. I'm wanting to build a couple of buildings right now and really step on it. I was like, should I, I don't want to do it though in this inflationary environment, right? Our building suppliers are so much. And he said, yeah, you know what? Like his conclusion to me was things are never going back to where they were. And it's not even because lumber is going to go down or whatever. He's like, it's all the other cost. It's the cost of labor associated with actually producing it. So he's like, don't wait, go ahead, right? Interest rates may be high and building supplies may be high, but it's not going to get better. It's not going to dip down to 2008 is what I was trying to get to.
And a Starbucks coffee will never be $1.50.
Never. It doesn't go backwards, right? It doesn't readjust.
It's never 99 cents ever again.
Yes. Very, very good point, Greg. And so that to me was like, oh yeah. And so I think sometimes when you say like, hey, sit on the sidelines and with dry powder, you may get some deals. Sometimes, the person who sits on the sidelines, it grows old and gray.
Of course, it's like timing the market. Same thing. It's timing the market.
The analogy I've always used with that, even paying at premiums and things like that. If when I jump in the river and the current is flowing, and you're waiting for the deal, you'll never catch me.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, Trey. Yeah, that's very good.
My struggle with exactly that is just sitting here and listening to people kind of just sit on the wayside waiting for the right time. The best ROI is opening up your operatories and seeing patients as soon as possible. I don't care how much you pay for it. You can make incredible profit. We're talking about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% profitability in dental practices. It's far more profitable than any of these costs we're talking about building anything. But some people are so scared because they're like, I want to get the best deal to build the practice or expand or add 2 operatories. I'm like, the best deal is getting them open as soon as possible. And that's where this concept of getting stuck on the economy honestly, it's too many people leaving the TV on and paying too much attention and not listening to all that, which is made to be for TV.
Right. Bleeds it reads, right?
Reads.
Okay. All right. So we kind of hit some strategies there. I mean, I wasn't expecting you guys to be like, all right, my 1, 2, and 3 would be this, but like, Craig, I do think it is important to get in the dirt and then get in the clouds. Get in the dirt. You got to have both. And so what you're saying is like, hey, I've got a bunch of dry powder. I want to get some stuff. Let's talk about that. And that's a cloud movement to me. Yeah. A dirt movement is let's look at supplies. And we're at 4%. I want to be at 3.99, right? Like that's a dirt move, and you got to have an equal balance, in my opinion, as an operator.
It's sword and shield. You have to play the game from increase your revenue. You got to block and tackle, that's not
shake and bake. I think it's what you meant.
Yeah, shake and bake. I meant that. I said with all due respect, but you have to play the game from both sides. It's developing a strategy.
That's a little bit more.
All deal.
Trey wants to play on both teams. That's what I'm.
Yeah.
Guys.
I'm dig a deeper hole. Yeah. I'm digging deeper.
I agree with you. I hear what you're saying.
You can't step over dollars to save the dimes, and you can't save your way to prosperity. I mean, you have to focus on driving forward, and you have to do the best strategy from the standpoint of saving money and an appropriate business tactics, and really it's your model. It's always readjusting your model to fit whatever the season of the economy is. But you got to drive forward. You got to keep moving forward.
But it is a good point, and I'm happy that you guys push back on it. I am thinking about this in a very different way. It's true. I would tell someone saying what I just said to me, I would actually tell them, like, time, get in right now. You know, if we look at things, it's frustrating because when you buy that house, you buy it for 500. The guy before you 10 years ago paid 100. You're so freaking pissed off. Like, you just paid 100. Like, and I'm paying 400, but you don't realize that in 3 years, you're that guy that paid 400. Now it's 800. Asset prices are not going anywhere over time. And waiting on the sidelines is a silly move. I am in my own neurotic brain trying to find the bottom as like a fun thing, but it's not good advice. I agree with you guys. I just had a learning moment.
Getting better as far as tactical things with recessionary strategy. One thing I would add to your list, because I love the focus of the avatar of the hygiene patient. One thing I would tell doctors and people with associates to help them re-energize themselves on the understanding of the recare appointment, not just the new patient hygiene appointment. Everybody thinks the new patient hygiene appointment is sexy. The truth is the recall is the highest case acceptance. Like you said, we know what's coming in. We know what their benefits are. You know, like all this, to me, one of the big key cogs is morning huddle, right? There are days when a provider, you may come in and they've got a light schedule because they had 2-3, cancellations. I had 2 big cancellations on Monday, actually, and I was going to see patients that day. And I come in, I'm like, whoa, I'm sitting on my tail here. And I'm like, what am I going to do? The money is in the chairs. The production is in the chairs. So if you have a good morning huddle and a strategic time to slow down and look at everything, not only look at your benefits, but know what's already coming in that is already treatment plan, and get them in other chairs and do your same day dentistry. I ended up producing over 10,000. Like, it was 15 grand by the end of it. Like,
from the summit, like we actually in the summit manual, so we have kind of how to run a successful morning meeting. And that is actually, there's kind of 5 key components of that we talk about. And one of them is what you're talking about, identifying in the meeting, same day opportunities. Doesn't mean you're going to have the time to do it, but it does know that there's pending treatment and conversations that you could do if there is cancellation. So going back to that strategy, same day would be a massive recessionary strategy, but you've got to be
on it. Where do you pull your same day from?
Chart when the patient's in the chair, is what I'm saying. So you've got to have that.
Hygiene.
Right.
Hygiene. You're right.
Yeah. People think that same day is like, oh, people walking in. No. It's the patient's already in the chair. And well, I think there's this natural gut that people are like, well, same day means somebody walked in and they're in pain, or they're calling in pain.
That's good to clarify that. It's not a walk-in.
Is actually what's in your office that very day that you're converting over, either diagnosing because they came in for an exam, you're converting over it, or you're in hygiene, you're diagnosing and you're converting over and you're getting it done the same day. And I think the other piece that a lot of people miss is they feel like this is business talk for their team. And it's not. What it is it's comprehensive, great customer service and patient care. Patients don't want to come back. None of us want to go back to the doctor multiple times. You need to get it done the day you're there.
Patients don't tell you they have a crown out. They make a cleaning appointment and they bring the crown in a Ziploc.
Right.
So how many times have we gone in like, oh, I'm coming in today. Oh, great. Getting cleaning? Yeah. And plus these 2 crowns fell out 2 weeks ago. Oh, well, you didn't book time with me. Like we think that they understand. They think they have an hygiene appointment. Yeah. Let me just bring everything in at that point. And by the way, guys, if my mic goes out, tell me.
I just did via text.
Yeah, but you texted me, and I'm not like I can't multitask.
We just thought you weren't talking. We weren't paid.
So,
exactly.
So Dwight, that is a good differentiation. That's a good differentiation to clarify. When we do say same day dentistry, we do not mean walk-in dentistry. We mean with people who have been on the schedule for a while, which means that you have ample time to review for same day opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. Typically that happens in hygiene, and our hygienists go ahead and look at that. And that's something that's talked about. And it's not, hey, we're doing number 14 today, everyone can read the damn schedule. Do not waste your time doing that with a morning meeting, right? Number 14 is going on Mrs. Jones, right? That's a seat. But what you don't is, there's an outstanding balance? Is there other treatment that could be done, right? Like that's a good use of the 15 minutes for your morning meeting, not today we're doing scaling and route planning on Miss Jones, right?
Yeah.
That's when everyone dreads the morning meeting because they serve no value.
Yeah. And I don't think that assigning morning huddle to a person, an office manager, like it should be a team effort approach. Our hygienists present their same day opportunities. Our doctors present opportunities for open spaces where they could take on same day, but it's usually their assistant speaking for them as a team conglomerate, kind of speaking it out. That is the goal. Morning huddle is a team approach, and it is comprehensively done by everybody. So everybody's bringing something to the table and say, oh, actually, you've got an extra hour and a half. I think we can move this Sarek over from this person to this person. It shouldn't be a problem. Might be a different doctor. Well, go ahead and do an intro. Grab me before I go in for this, for the intro. All that is the
key to Dwight. Can I piggyback on what you're saying? Is that there's keys to this, in my opinion, is that you put it in patient benefited verbiage. How lucky are you that I just had a cancellation?
Not a cancellation. No one
can. You must be living life the right way because wow, right?
Yeah, we just had a last minute
we can see you today, whether that's BS or not. But like it's all about the verbiage that someone's presented, in my opinion. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So moving along, I think that's good. Unless Trey, you got anything to add to kind of a recessionary strategy that we didn't cover?
No, I think the sustainability of a dental practice is it lives in the hygiene program.
Okay.
So
statistically,
you put that together, you weather any storm because you can pull the same day treatment out of all those of that program. We're very fortunate in medicine that we have a recurring preventive strategy of seeing patients. And if you really think about it, how many industries in medicine, how many fields of medicine have that? You have colonoscopies, you have us, you have mammograms. I mean,
you have dermatology.
They're few and far between.
Derm.
Well, derm is adapted. Derm is put in a whole bunch of elective stuff, Botox and fillers to get that frequency up.
So we're not dependent on waiting for the phone to ring.
But Trey, there are practices out there that are dependent on that. They run business models that are just all on X mechas or whatever, Invisalign specific or clear aligner specific practices. Those have holes in those business models.
For sure.
They will not weather the storm as well. You're right.
And by the way, my friend is a plastic surgeon. He's like one of the largest consumers of Botox. And for those dentists out there that love their, I'm sorry.
Nothing.
Yeah, he's like 74. He looks like he's 28.
Except for down here.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like, you guys are so lucky. The reason why we have to do Botox is because people don't come in frequently, and we don't get a chance to touch on them. Like, hey, you thinking about the facelift or the blepharoplasty or the whatever. Right. But the Botox allows them that frequency. So we are so blessed. And if you think about it, statistically speaking, the most important statistic, I know that we've all heard it a million times, but it bears mention one more time. It's the pre-appointment rate, not the reappointment rate. Pre-appointment rate means what percentage of your patients have a next appointment booked. Yeah. And that's the single metric that points to overall practice health and success.
Well,
it's not
let me say this about that too. Pre-appointment is a lagging indicator of reappointment.
Right.
So,
but the reappointment rate is a hygiene specific thing. Hygienists do a great job of reappointing their patients. But so you could have a reappointment rate that's 98%, like ridiculously high, but only 20% of your patients are actively in the hygiene system. Because let's face it, when we finish a case, when I see a lot of my doctors finish a case and they drop in that FMR, see you later.
Not like no next visit, right?
No next visit. They walk them out the front door.
That takes into account that none of these metrics work in a vacuum. All of them work together. You can't focus on one and ignore all the others.
But if you have that, if you can focus on that pre-appointment rate, though, it's the largest net to catch it all because it divides the active patients with the next appointment. Because out of sight, out of mind.
Pre-appointment rate is your recessionary indicator. If you have a bad pre-appointment rate, you can expect local recession. I love people who think, oh, well, nothing's happened. No, it happens locally in a lot of businesses. They have a quote recession within their own business. That's because they haven't done their pre-appointment rate. Their patients aren't coming in. If you want to figure out your own business, there might be a recession going on out there, but there's nothing going on in here. It's because you're locking in this one. And if nobody does anything else, the pre-appointment rate is the one to focus on. There's no doubt.
And by the way, just assign somebody in the practice that responsibility. and have them just gently beat that drum every Monday morning. Like, hey guys, great job last week. It went up 1%. Yeah. Just 1%. We're getting there. And that, like Pearson's law, that which gets measured and reported back tends to improve. Just one person every single Monday. Pre-appointment rate.
So I actually never look at the pre-appointment rate. I only look at the hygiene pre-appointment rate. But I look at it in conjunction with, I monitor what are my active hygiene patients versus my active patients. So I have to see that benchmark is hit. Then I monitor the reappointment rate, knowing that that's feeding the pre-appointment rate. And then the pre-appointment rate, the hygiene pre-appointment rate, tells me that I will always have a sustainable program. And then I can pull those people out. When you only focus on pre-appointment, which includes the restorative side of it, you can have that one practice that focuses on all on fours. It's a restorative heavy practice, have a very good looking pre-appointment rate, and then get trounced in a
it's a lead indicator market. Is what you're saying, Trey. That was what you were saying earlier, right? There's lead and lag, and that's a great lead or prognosticating indicator of how you're going to do in the future.
With this, yes, I was saying the reappointment is a lead indicator to pre-appointment, which is the lag indicator. So a good reappointment feeds the pre-appointment. But in this case, if you're focusing on just pre-appointment as opposed to hygiene pre-appointment, it leaves a big gaping hole for that practice that can have those numbers look good. But if it's a restorative heavy practice, you look good all the way up until you crash, because there's no hygiene program to keep feeding that restorative. It's the engine. It's the engine that feeds it. So you can keep going if you have a good hygiene pre-appointment.
Oh man.
It's so much to look at. And by the way, you get something good in your practice. You get a metric that you're really working towards and have it optimal levels. And you kind of lose attention on it and you focus on the next thing. And then you go back and you have to pick that part up as well. It's a never ending saga of this. Even when you build good systems, after a while, things tend to fall apart. There's disorganization that happens.
Unless Craig, unless you focus on, in my opinion, a sustainable amount. And this is just works for me. I think if you gamify the 5 or whatever you may be, and I think there's really 5 that move, and then we've talked about that in our AACD lecture, right? Like no one has got the damn time to look at 100, right? And if you do, like it's probably a point of diminishing returns. So yes, you're spinning plates, Craig, and I agree. When you're spinning one, you're like, this is awesome. And you kind of take your eyes off it. You look back in a couple of months, like, what the hell happened? But I think, as I kind of said at AACD, like it is incumbent upon us CEOs or the people leading practices, you just have to have some level of acumen on your numbers. Otherwise, you're A, going to get taken advantage of, or B, you're going to wake up and be like, what the hell happened? Right? And like, you're the one that was driving the car. What do you mean?
Yeah, we've all been there. What do you mean this is going on?
What do you mean? Weren't you guys looking at this? Like it's your business, Doc. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. No one can care more than you. And if you don't care, it's hard to set this example. I've been there, done that.
Okay. Let's talk about some gossip. Let's get some dental gossip.
Ooh, Aspen.
Yes.
So I was looking at the Dental Nachos feed, Paul Goodman's, and I saw this like post. So he sometimes will repurpose some of the stuff that's on Facebook, because I don't get on Facebook because it looks like a hellhole of conversations.
True.
It just looks like a terrible cesspool of conversations. I don't even go there. So, but he repurposed a conversation that I guess an associate was asking. He put it on Instagram, which I saw, and it was basically someone saying like, "Hey, I work for Aspen, and they are not paying their doctors right now." And so it was like, "Whoa, that's pretty crazy. What's going on?" Where Craig, and then I posted that to our group thread where Craig Quigley was like, "Hey, look, they got a Cyberhack on their data." So I'd kind of dug in a little bit. Maybe I'd love to hear what y'all found out, but there was a vulnerability further. Okay. Looks like there was a vulnerability, and the data was being held hostage for a ransom. Now that maybe I don't have any. I don't take that for fact. That's all this is just the rumor. But so it was interesting, which prompted Dwight. I believe you brought this up today in our office hours. Has everyone what's the name of the insurance, Dwight?
Cybersecurity insurance.
Okay. Cybersecurity insurance, right? And looking at your IT. Did y'all hear anything else on that Aspen deal?
just the fact that, I mean, clearly they've been having some public share value issues. And
what'd the stock do that day, by the way? Does anyone know?
Tanked. Did
it really?
It got so cheap that that's why everybody was yelling consolidation. Consolidation's about to happen because someone was going to make an offer that they couldn't.
Yeah. Really?
Well, what happened?
How long did it go on for, Dwight? Do you know?
I don't. All I know is that they had just had an uptick in their stock value, and then they had some executive drama going on. It was like one thing after another, and then they had the payout issue, and that started dropping, and then they had the hack. Then they had the hack, and it went like below appropriate share value where it was a negative spend, and so it was already being considered for sell. Get out of this before it tanks any further. So let me see where we're at on the stock value.
Trey, you didn't hear anything, did you?
Not to that level, no.
I just thought, I mean, I was just thinking, like, it kind of blew my mind right when I saw Paul's post, and I was like, holy shit, like, not paying.
Well, I mean, you said there was more to it. What's going down? What happened?
Well, there was more to it, meaning that there was a lockup on the data. Therefore, if you can't access your systems and you can't access and the pay, and how are you going to look at, what doctors produced what and all that stuff. So I guess that was the reason for non-payment. But
their stock symbol, Aspen.
I don't know.
ASPU.
So that was just, it's just kind of a thing that, as we have all been talking and beating the drum and like, don't sell your assets, and like, and people saying like, what's it like to work for a DSO? Like sometimes this can happen. Not that this couldn't happen to a private.
It can happen to all of us.
Sure. But guess what?
Is that really it? ASPU, Aspen Group Incorporated?
Yeah.
They traded 7 cents down.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Their price target is $1.83, and they're at 7 cents right now.
Wait,
that means
their EBITDA is negative. No, they lose money. No, we have to have ASPU. It has to be the wrong. This is not the right symbol. Where's our Jamie?
How is it not?
It's not.
I'm right here, Craig.
Yeah, but
I thought I was
dude. ASPU. What Dwight is telling me that as Aspen Dental revenues are 17.07 million. No.
What are you looking?
Anyway. I'm looking at ASPU. What you just told me. That's not what it is. You're giving me the wrong symbol. I'm calling bullshit on D-Whistle here.
Please comment below at what Craig
is that really?
Just have some fun with this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, but I'll leave.
Well, just keep talking me through it.
Well, I don't know. Pick any Aspen Group Incorporated. Let's see. ASPU is at 7 cents share right now. Let's see. I can give you more information on charts.
Like we shouldn't be doing this live, but
I don't care. It's the reality of it. I'm putting my neck out. I'm gonna get torched. Aspen Group. Aspen Group. It's 17. What am I seeing here? Am I really seeing that their sales are that? I mean, their revenues are that low.
Revenue is 77 million.
Okay, that's
a net income of net income right now is negative 10 million.
Jeez, that's what I saw. So their net income, they're losing 10 million a year.
Correct.
Jeez, I just don't understand Wall Street.
Their operating margin is negative 11%. Pre-tax.
Oh my God! How's that? Is that a healthy profit margin?
Well, it's like a software thing in that it's basically operating on growth and scale. Like, as I was talking to some other buddies.
But by debt backed though, guys.
Debt backed, it's the growth, not the profit.
Yeah. Enterprise value.
Which is crazy, right?
Enterprise value is enterprise value to EBITDA is negative 4.1%. Negative 4.1, sorry. So return on total capital, negative 12. I mean, obviously at this point in time, these are automated formulas. So they tell you to buy because it's a buy ratio because the expected target is 1.83 cents.
That's crazy.
It all depends. At some point in time, it can be bought out.
I mean, what a robust company though, guys. I had no idea about the financials, but as an outsider, just the dentist looking in on Aspen, being that they own Clear Choice and their facilities and, the quality, like what appears to be the quality of the work life for the dentist at Aspen. I know people that work at Aspen and they don't, I think from what I've seen, it seems like one of the better ones.
It's you still want to buy that Aspen property, Craig? You and I were looking at in Florida. We were looking to buy an Aspen, like not the practice, but just the real estate holding.
Yeah,
right?
Peter and I have this idea about trying to create a portfolio of dental real estate, which I love. I love a lot of real estate, but actually, I'm not loving my shopping center lately. I got to tell you what happened.
I was about to say, I was like,
I'm getting my ass thoroughly kicked right now. So like,
we all love being landlord until you realize all you want to do is a single tenant space.
Maybe
no, it's not a single tenant space, but like when we have a masterminder come in and we just like really unlock all these opportunities because we can help people see around all the corners. So I am like a 2-year dental dentist in real estate. It's like I have 2 years of experience. I know enough to be dangerous, and I've just really screwed things up at my own shopping center. But I'm gonna fix it. I got it. I'm gonna fix it. But yeah,
the unicorn is the single tenant space. It is not a multi-tenant space.
Yeah,
it is just hard to find. It's massively profitable. It's fantastic, and we ignore it and then try to go multi-tenant and play landlord instead of
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is when you write a lease to a tenant, you should at least read it.
These are just basic stuff.
Yeah, so that's
so true. I heard Greg and his lawyer arguing with each other, and he was like, "Did you read this?" And like, isn't that what I paid you for to read this?
The lawyer
wants. I thought you looked at it. He's like, Craig's like, I'm not the attorney.
I'm like, you're the attorney. He's like, we should sue them. I'm like, I read the use clause that you wrote. It says that you allow people under the jurisdiction of the state. To me, as a dentist, that means we're catering to prisoners.
You're not.
So, anyway, it's fine. I'll deal with it. But it's I've had a lot of accelerated learning. Learning is costly, guys.
That's actually a really good point. It accelerates your learning. It accelerates your learning, and you kill it next time.
I'm not upset. Do you mean you wrote that into the contract?
Like it's a long story. It's a long story, but you can't, like, the same way we're preaching to dentists, like, know your numbers, know your pre-appointment percentage. My buddy, who's a real estate like mogul, my buddy Michael, is just like, so wait, you didn't read any of that? I'm like, no. And then yesterday, I signed a quote because I have a property manager. And my thought was the property manager is going to do that. But like, it's incumbent upon you, if you run a business, you own a piece of real estate, you got to do so. This is all me, guys. It's all me. I'd love to point the finger, but I was just a knucklehead. But I'm still going to do okay.
Your velocity, sometimes you miss things, right? But like, just like I always say, be the advocate of your healthcare, be the advocate of your legal, be the advocate of your practice. Like, you unfortunately have to be the advocate of a lot of things in your life, which is be the advocate of your supplies, right, Dwight?
Well, all we really do as business owners is constantly checking and making sure, like, everything we've talked about thus far is like this: keep your eye on it, delegate, make sure it gets done, check in with your supplier. It's like really all we're doing is just checking to make sure things are getting done, because you set it up, and you have to go fix it again and fix it again.
I don't believe that's true.
Well, I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about today.
From a maintenance standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's always maintenance.
Yeah.
All right.
You're probably not the one doing the maintenance, though.
Well, I was yesterday. I'll send you pictures.
Well, yeah, in some cases, yeah. But
yeah, I walked up. I'm like, there's like broken asphalt everywhere. But any dentist wants to present in Stuart, Florida, let me know. I've got an amazing shopping center that's about to be really amazing after I clean up the tenants. Or Dwight, you want to open up a foot massage place?
that sounds good.
I learned about those too. I learned about those as well.
I'll put in some checks on Aspen here in a second, see what's going on.
Yeah, Dwight, you give us no. All right, well, let's wrap. Craig, do you want to talk about AACD recap?
Yeah, I want to talk about AACD, dude. I
want to hear about that.
Hold on.
Have you guys ever been?
Wait, hold on. Dwight's got something.
Wait, have we ever been to the conference? Well, my thought was this. I want to ask y'all more like question and answer. I'm terribly interested in how well attended the event was. Okay. What type of individual did you interact with compared to the people that would show up to a summit? That's
one at a time, Dwight. One at a time. One question.
All right, go. How well attended was it?
So, like, Peter has a really good understanding of the ACD, and in fact, when
2000, I went there. So 2000 on, Dwight. That's the context.
Yeah. So he went to the actual Gaylord hotel in the DFW area, like 15 years ago, like as a new dentist, and like looked up at all these, the heroes of dentistry. And so he has a lot of perspective on it. In full disclosure, when we were asked to, when I was asked to come on stage, I said, Peter, I don't know if we should do this. And he's like, dude, this is great. And I didn't know anything. And I walked away thinking, like, having a really profound appreciation for AACD. And from what I understand, they went through a little bit of a rough patch where they kind of got in their own, they just believed their own hype for a while. And under, not the greatest leadership, it declined, the membership declined over time, and the summit attendance declined. But there's new leadership coming in. I don't think it's public knowledge yet, but there's a new appointed president, which we can't talk about, but he's a rock star. And I am really excited about the AACD, man. I thought the people were cool, right? I thought the event was cool. I thought it was congenial. I thought there was probably how many thousands? 3,000?
No, I don't know about that. There's probably 1,000.
Okay, yeah. My motto: never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Yeah. There were thousands of people at the Gaylord. They just weren't there for the AACD.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get a head count on that because there's such the rooms, right? There's so many courses going on at the same time, so it's hard to. And we didn't go to the General Assembly, so.
We were lecturing, I think, right after the General Assembly, but I want to give a shout out to Brian Baliwaz, who we spoke at this little breakout session, Peter and I. It was Brian Baliwaz and a guy by the name of Phil Shaheen.
Little, it was a huge room. What are you talking about? Little breakout room? It was a big room.
Yeah, it was actually, that was 300, by the way, wasn't that? 200?
But proceed with the Brian.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea about the numbers. Where'd Trey go? Trey just bolted? This is that boring.
He's like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
Yeah, no, you didn't tell your microphone.
AACD, what is that?
Yeah, but Trey is actually going to be going to the quadrant dentistry and bloody prophy.
That's too big. That's way too big.
Oh, sorry.
I don't do quadrant
Single
dentistry.
tooth and bloody prophy.
I've corrected you on that one.
Yeah.
I actually had two docs go to the AACD. I didn't know they were going. They packed up, hit the road.
Trey's at the former Creasol and Amalgam Summit.
What's the difference between the type of attendee?
So let me just finish with this. So we had a breakout. It was awesome. What I was most impressed about is that it started at 9 and the doors open and it flooded in. And we had actually people coming in saying they actually attended the AACD just for us, which I'm happy they told me after, so I wouldn't have had any pressure on us. But Brian Baliwas, SF Dental Nerd, he's a badass. He did a great presentation on marketing, and there was a bunch. I mean, the future looks really bright for dentistry. Met a guy named Joey RK, rock star, brand new minted dentist, doing a lot of super GPs in this room. Mm-hmm. So AACD is not, to me, it's not just the guys that are just doing the cosmetics, but they're deep diving. They're doing coist and spear and all sorts of surgical training. Another one, Jessica Wyatt. What a badass.
Was that not normal before, Pete?
He knows the perspective,
like super GPs versus just special, like aesthetics guys.
No, it wasn't super GPs. It was really just
aesthetics.
Generalist saying, being cosmetic only, right? I think that new phenomenon of the super GP has come on more recently. Not phenomenon, but people have identified, like, if you've been in dentistry long enough, I give that story. Like, look, all I did in 2008, 7, 8, 9 kind of thing was cosmetic. And then you learn hard and fast in a recession. Like, that's not a very good model to only being a quote unquote cosmetic dentist. Right. So Dwight, I think there's been, to your question, what was the room filled with? I think it was filled with a predominant amount of craftsmen kind of people, right? Yeah. Like people that are very serious about like, they just want to do more and more and more and more clinical and more like, look at this case and all this stuff, which is
right. And just to expand,
awesome.
Expand on what you just said. Expand on what you said, Peter, just so the audience knows what you're talking about with that craftsman comment. People who are into their craft and not necessarily dental business people. Mm-hmm. They're not multi-location, multi-doctor. They're all, our age or no matter where they are in their life cycle, they're actually into their craft. They're not hiring multiple
clinicians that have dove into that at a high level, which is exactly who you want your clinicians to be.
Well, and they become the LeBron James of their own little ecosystem, and unfortunately that is not scalable, right? The car accident, the skiing accident, like David, I remember when David Hornbrook lost his thumb in a skiing accident, right? And he was like, at the time, like almost lost half of it. The world's kind of cosmetic dentist, he was lectures and all this stuff. And like just losing the tip of your thumb on your right hand, your dominant prepping hand, can change the trajectory of your career. And so that's not when there's vulnerability in that model, right? When you're LeBron James and you're winning championships in your 5 operatory office, and something happens to you, get sick or whatever, that's dangerous. The model's predicated on you. And so I think there's a lot of that. I think they're amazing dentists. I was looking at some of the dentistry on some of those accreditation boards, Craig, and it's lovely to see. It really is.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's very inspiring for the craft of dentistry. And what do you think that they took so much from your presentation?
Yeah. So can I answer this, Craig?
Yeah,
please. So I think Craig, was really asked, right? Because I think there's some optics opening up around that, right? Because just what I was saying is that you can't just be can't be very myopic and just say, well, I'm going to do this and nothing. I don't need to worry about anything else. They are getting wiser and wanting to bring in people who can help teach business, because I always say it's not that you're not the best at your job. It's just no one knows who the hell you are, or no one knows what the heck you do in your community. So there's marketing, there's scale, there's more locations potentially. Like it's your job, if you're that great, to create awareness and scale to your community, in my opinion. Yeah. And so I think they're getting wise, and they're bringing on people like Craig and I who are just as passionate in their direction as they are cosmetics and bonding and stuff, just as passionate about growing practices. Like we kind of said, like we grow practices, right? We grow our own practices and we help other people grow their practices, full stop. And I think getting that exposure in a quote unquote niche academy like AACD is they're wise. They're very wise to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I do think, to comment on one thing you said earlier, that world, it is predicated on them, which creates a vulnerability. But that's the vast majority of people, because scale is not on most people's mind. But there should be exposure to scale, because it opens the door to teach you, if you did lose the tip of your thumb, you can pivot. There are adaptations that you can do in your vision and your model. I mean, you can and frankly, you could change careers. But the ability to do so is predicated on that fact that you are aware of. Hey, it's going to be okay. You're going to do fine.
Well, what was interesting, Trey, I heard a conversation, and the woman we were talking to at the time was basically saying, like, look, I can't do that. I can't scale and increase the size of my practice because everyone comes to see me. Me. They won't.
We heard this,
and I have associates, but no one wants to see them, and quite frankly, they're not as good as me. So like, don't the people deserve the best treatment, right? And so that is a business psychology that you all of a sudden are going to put yourself on that. And meanwhile, my back hurts. My back hurts. My hands hurt. This hurts. I don't have time for anything. And so this becomes the narrative in your head. I'm the best. I should be working. No one can help me, but woe is me. Look at all the things surrounding my life. I made a great income, but I'm on this treadmill and I can't get off. Right.
And by the way, it doesn't have to be such it doesn't have to be so binary. It's not be full. You can hybridize your practice. It's not scale or not scale. There's a way to hybridize it. But Peter and I were talking about at the AACD, there's it's like I think I want to give them kudos because they recognize that we have to offer a full nutritional diet of CE. You can't just learn all clinical. Clinical's wonderful and it's great, and hats off to those amazing clinicians. It's like the first step, but it's almost like we need a CE timeline. The first CE is master your craft and do these things, but then ultimately you have to have another stream of CE that teaches you how to be a business person. Because you have a hole in your knowledge base. So by and large, the people we were talking to were really good at what they did, but completely clueless how to take the next level, how to run a business.
Yeah, no operations, no operations, no procedural
Nothing.
Protocols, things like this, right? It was just, you were good because you were good. Like the practice was good because you were good. That's it.
So our lecture was like, it's not about you. It's like the dentistry, and then not the dentistry, and not the dentistry is much, much more. And I think I'm really excited for the AACD because I think
the new leadership's going to be good.
New leadership, but they also liked what we were doing, and we were invited back to come back. And I'm just a huge fan. I mean, my flight got canceled. Peter and I were flying out, And I came back because my flight was canceled. I had the best time ever. And I told Peter next year, for sure, we want to spend the entire time because they're just the cool dentists.
Yeah, usually we fly in and out of places like, because it's like, all right.
But these are the cool dentists. Like Peter and I are actually going to join the ACD. We're going to do it just for the, that's what was talked about. It's like, what is it? $600.
What I love about it is, I think we've gotten the luxury for several years to get to work in and around and with so many doctors and masterminds. And I just want to point something out because I can speak personally from this situation, from being a super GP, like that was my world. And the true cash profitability of my practice was based on my shoulders. Right. And the reason it's listening to you talk about those in the ACD, right? I've been to those, I've enjoyed it. Like I get it too, but you look back and you realize those are individuals who, and I can say this because I've been there, where they almost prefer to be special than to be happy. And it's a hard thing. I can say that.
You're talking about status.
I like being special. I like being the one they call to solve the problem. I know that I'm the only one in this state who can do the work that I do, or in this city.
I want to be the hero.
I want to be the hero. I want to be the one that I'm available. Oh, somebody wrecked their face and I have to be the one put it back together because nobody else knows how. I got the phone call from the ER. All that drama, with all due respect, first of all, we're not saving, we're not reconstructing, we're not cardiothoracic surgeons. This is not complex work. Okay. I come from a long line of physicians who do much more scary stuff every day. And I kind of want everybody to realize, like, get your life back. And this is so common thread in the beginning of every single mastermind where it's like, well, they need to see me, but I want to scale. I want to grow my business. I want to be able to take a vacation. I want to be at my kid's soccer game, but I have to be the one that's there. I have to be the one who takes care. And I think the truth is that is a big problem in our profession. And it doesn't mean you can't grow and you can't scale, but you've got to accept the fact that happiness does not come from being the special one. Happiness comes from being the fulfilling one who scales your business and teaches others your craft and gives you the ability to be with in a fulfilling life with your family too. So I love that you're doing that.
Your happiness though.
Yeah.
Your happiness does that.
It brings into question the lifestyle the whole lifestyle comment of you build what you want.
Right. The freedom of direction.
Freedom of direction. You got it.
Right.
That's right.
And for those that are into the status, like Peter said, that's your freedom of he likes that's legacy. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of dentists out there that are doing phenomenally well as solo practitioners. They're making great money. They consolidate their schedule from 5 to 4 to 3 days. I mean, that's an amazing life too. And they love it.
Yes, but I also think you should be reading Arthur Brooks's Strength to Strength and realizing that that's the first half of life, but the majority of life that comes after from fulfillment is not that. It's not about being special.
But the
it's not a happiness scale.
Right, but the ACD provides something like that too, because you can be an artist in your craft and then wind up getting accredited, and then you're on stage teaching other people. It's just a different column of the Strength to Strength.
Right.
Well, and they brought y'all on stage to talk about it to their credit.
Right.
So they're planning. They're seeing that as they jump the curve to that second half of life.
Right.
So kudos to them.
Yeah, no, it's super cool, guys. Holy shit, I loved it.
Guys, we are pushing about 100. We're pushing an hour 15. We're pushing 115. Man, see, I came back from F1.
Craig,
by the way,
contracts. Pete can't see numbers. There's all sorts of shit going on here.
I saw our buddy Randy at F1. Yeah, got a quick hug, and he told me that he's got to go catch his helicopter. No shit, true story. And I was like, dude, you took a helicopter to F1? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's a next level move.
Yeah.
Anyway, watching F1 is crazy because it goes by so fast, and you almost have to watch it on TV because your vantage point is only turn one, and there's 14. Anyway,
cool. Did
guys,
you see how he looked? Yeah,
he looked great.
No, I didn't mean Randy. I'm like saying, like, as they drive by, like, you can't see anything, but
it's
an amazing party. I want to go next year.
It is still, if you've never been, it is a cool.
I'm going to Vegas. I think the Vegas F1 in October. I think. Just because it's very addicting. Like, it's a cool. Like, I got my Red Bull hat on, and like, I got You know, and the series on
Crypto.com sponsored it, by the way, right? Wasn't
what
there,
did Crypto.com? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Netflix has got that cool special that's really brought. I was listening to the guy Zach Brown, who's the head of YPO brought in speakers and such, and Zach Brown was saying how he's the head of McLaren's team, and he was saying how 75% of new attention to F1 has come from
the
Netflix.
Yeah, that series.
The whole world.
Huge.
The whole world is infatuated with F1, and it's just new to America. It's new to the States.
It's like soccer.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to tell you guys, it's been pretty cool. So sometimes I see some of like the ticket matriculation on the summit stuff because it operational. I'm close to Lacey, and so I see some things, and it's really neat to see like some doctors we're seeing like 19 tickets at a time, and like people just really leaning into their office. And it's like, I want to reach out and hug them and be like, you just made the best investment. Because I think it's really cool to see that. So this summit, speaking of Vegas and F1, this summit's going to be special because we've got massive size. Everything in Vegas is special, but it's going to be just a lot of great energy there. And you know, kind of how I mentioned, you know, one of the half reasons I go to YPO events is because of the energy of people, the things that you learn that you didn't think that you were going to come to learn, right? I went to an F1 event, but guess what? I learned about construction, and I learned about this business roll up, and I learned about all these different things. And I think that's the beauty of like going to an event like Bulletproof, is that you come for, well, I want to see the manual. I want to hear Craig and Pete talk about this, or I want to hear Dwight talk about, whatever it may be.
Sure.
But the halo effect, the benefit comes from like you meeting someone that may be in that same struggle as you, and you having that conversation, or your team having that conversation. So, right, what you think you're going for is not the intended effect of what happens. And I gotta tell you, I'm really excited about it because the feedback we're getting, the amount of tickets that are being sold is crazy. So, and we're still shit. I mean, how many months away are we? What are we in May? We got 4 months, right? Three and a half months. And so this shit's going to sell out. So don't delay.
Let's do it. That's going to be a blast.
Do it.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Trey, are you coming or are you having another baby?
Win hotel.
No, I'm done having babies. I already
no more babies?
I lost.
Yeah, it's 93 days, 13
I'm
hours,
mobile
27
again.
minutes away.
You're mobile.
93 days away.
Good.
And just so you know, too, that I just want to make sure everybody knows that there's discounts for groups. So you bring 10, you get 10. You bring 20, you get 20. Bring 30, you get 30. What an amazing investment. You don't just have to take your team on a booze cruise.
I was like,
you say that again,
I'm
Craig.
bringing my 60 people for 30 tickets.
Slow down.
So 90, you bring 90 people. Pete will pay the 60% so that you can get 90%.
We will pay you.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly did tell somebody last year, there was a guy, I tell them if it's worth $100,000. I said, if it's not, you come find me. And he actually came up to me at the end. He's like, listen, it was awesome. Shout out to that guy. It was sent through
like not Andy. Quite $100,000 though.
Yeah. Well, no, Trey, it was not. It was not. It was like 20 for the entire team.
Go back and clarify what you were saying about the 10. Go back and clarify.
Please.
Why? Did I mess that up?
Yes, you just said if you buy 10, you get 10. It's percent.
No, yes. Buy 10 tickets, get 10% off.
Off your aggregate.
Get 20% off. Buy 30, get 30% off.
Big difference.
I will say it again.
I heard 50%.
We got it. We got it.
So you really rolled back that generosity.
What? Buy 10, that's 50. Yeah, but listen, we should do a 50-50.
So if someone does bring 90, do they get 90% off?
Let's just email us or drop a comment. We'll figure something out. I would love there to be some. Yes,
that would
the answer is there's a larger discount.
I'm totally down. I'll
hey, let's hit up Aspen.
Who came up with this math?
5,000. 5,000.
Came up with this math. All right, guys. Anything in closing? We're gonna wrap. If not,
good stuff. Good stuff, gentlemen.
Good to see y'all, fellas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
I know we don't need an outro anymore because Craig gave us a song, but I got the buttons. I want to push them.
Are you giving us a new intro?
See you guys.
Yeah, we got one. It's coming.